Hey folks, Jessica here. So we're in Genshin Impact, and today I wanted to talk more about artifact farming post-adventure rank 45. I had previously given my impressions of what the rates were like when I first hit 45, but today we're taking a deeper dive. So I've been trying to farm the perfect Thunder Soother set for Kuching for a bit now. I think I've spent about 1,000 resin in the Electro domain. I had some of these pieces prior to now, but yeah, about 1,000 resin in the Electro domain. And after that, I've gotten 75 Thundering Fury pieces, 69 nice Thunder Soother pieces, and a bunch of Sojourner pieces. So yeah, we're going to look through those, see if any of them were any good. Now, the reason why people always ask about this is because you have access to better drops when you get to higher adventure rank. So before 30, you can't even get purple pieces. You cannot get 4-star pieces prior to 30. Post 30, 30 to 35, you can get 4-star pieces, but they're going to be a bit rare. 35 to 40, you will routinely get 4-star pieces, but you cannot get golds. You cannot get 5-star pieces. 40 to 45, you can get golds, 5-star pieces, but it is then going to be pretty rare. It's like 1 in 3 maybe runs you'll get a gold piece. You'll always get 4-star pieces. Then post 45, you will always get purple pieces, 4 stars still, but you will also always get a 5-star piece. Every single run will get you at least 1 gold piece. Rarely, very, very rarely, you'll get 2 5-star pieces in one run. It was something like 1 in 15 runs or so, roughly, where you'll see a double 5-star drop. So yes, you definitely do get a better rate of higher rarity artifacts later. The quality of them, still super random. The quality of drops post 45 still pretty sauce. You're still gonna get a lot of like non-offensive main stat pieces that you just use as fodder immediately. So it does get better, but the quality is still gonna be really random. And that's why a lot of people, including myself, recommend you wait till 45 in order to start farming in earnest for your perfect 5-star pieces. Prior to then, I do recommend, though, you try and at least get a usable set for all your characters, because it's going to help, especially for actually clearing the domains, which we'll get to. A thing we haven't talked about a lot is domains get kind of hard at world level 6. So that's actually an argument for getting gear on your characters before you get 45, actually doing some domains prior to that, because if you get to world level 6, you get to adventure rank 45 and you don't have any gear, you're gonna have a hard time doing the domains. You're probably gonna need co-op help to do them at that point, and that can be a little bit awkward. So actually, while we have really hammered home that you shouldn't really do domains that much prior to 45 for artifacts, I think you do want to do it a bit. I think it's totally reasonable to try and get at least the core pieces of a set for each of your major characters before 45. I just think you shouldn't try to really hammer it to get perfect pieces. But here, this is what a 45 domain looks like. So typically these domains will have some kind of condition that will punish certain elements. So this one, if I trigger melt, I'll take like 4k plus nukes. This domain is the Earth domain, the one with the Geo set, and you want to do what I did, if at all possible, like disable this robot immediately going in, otherwise it's going to kick the crap out of you. In fact, if I forget to do that, I just restart the domain. But if you stun it and you've got enough damage, you can burn it down before it gives you too much trouble. You don't want this thing floating around doing its attacks on you. It's also a pain in the ass because melee characters have trouble hitting it if you don't down it. Abyss mages, we all know how to deal with them at this point. They do hit for a lot, but we're just going to try and get them out of the way fast. And yes, my Venti crits required a lot at this point. Like 25k Venti elemental skill crits. But yeah, I am pretty strong, so it's not too bad for me. But if you approach these with like no gear, then it's going to be a tough time to actually get through this. So keep in mind, that's an argument for actually doing a little bit of farming in domains if you really want to before 45, so you're ready for when you get to this point. And this is fairly average in terms of drops. 1 5-star and then the rest 4-star. Alright, let's start by looking at flowers. So remember that flowers and feathers are easier. They will always have the right main stat. Flowers will always have HP, feathers will always have flat attack. Because of that, we really need to care about substats. Since the main stat's always going to be the same, the thing that would define whether or not this is a keepable piece is its substats. So the one I'm using right now is pretty good. It's attack, crit rate, crit damage. We don't really want to see HP on it. I'd rather that be attack percentage, but this is fine. I'm gonna plus 20 this probably, and it will probably be a pretty good piece that I'll use for a while. The one thing that could happen, and the one reason why you don't want to see any non-ideal stats on an item is when I plus this up, remember every 4 levels you get a bonus to one of the substats. If I took this to plus 20 and all of the bonuses went into HP, this would go from being a pretty good piece to something I'm definitely replacing at some point. And yes, I know that's super frustrating. It's just one of the issues with a random stat system like this. A piece can go from, oh yeah, that's super exciting, to, whoa. Just in the space of plus 20ing it. It's just a thing you're gonna have to deal with. So let's look at some more pieces. We'll look at some 4-star pieces. 4 stars aren't going to be keepers just because they're 4-star, but let's set that aside so we can see their stat allocation. So this one's HP, energy recharge, garbage. Not even gonna try and reveal the rest of the substats on this. Here's the thing: you could plus 4 this and then plus 8 it to see its final substats. Like its 3rd and 4th substats. However, this thing only has 2 misses, so even if the other 2 are to be crit rate and crit damage, this thing will be at best mediocre, so I won't waste the resources to reveal the rest, unless this was like your only piece. A thing to note, by the way, 5-star pieces can start with more than 2 substats revealed. So this one has 3 revealed, even though it's plus 0. This one has 4 revealed, even though it's plus 0. So keep that in mind. This one, also garbage, 2 defensive substats, not worth revealing anymore or plussing up anymore. This one, honestly, I wouldn't plus this up to reveal the rest of the substats, but you could, because if it was like crit rate, crit damage, or attack percentage, crit rate, whatever, then this would be potentially usable. But because it's a 4-star, I'm not going to really bother. This one, I think, is another hard pass. Elemental Mastery is an offensive stat. We've talked about this before, but it's the one I'm least excited to see, especially on a character like Keqing, because she tends to not be the character triggering the reaction. She tends to be the one applying the initial element, and then someone else reacts off her, just by the nature of how fast she applies her reaction. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Certain characters are going to value certain substats more, so this is not universal. I think on someone like Keqing, brief aside, her innate stat when you level her is crit damage. So I think the most valuable stat you could see on anything for her would actually be crit rate to balance that out. So things to keep in mind. Let's look at the rest of these. This one, if I were inclined to use a 4-star piece, I would reveal the last 2 on these, because this is a great start. Like, if the next 2 stats that get revealed are both non-offensive, then this would be okay. But if even one of them is offensive, then this ends up being a pretty solid piece. This one, it's 50-50. Don't really like it. This one, it is crit rate, so this one's more enticing than, say, this one, but still probably won't. So let's look at the 5-star pieces, the ones we really care about. This one, again, 2 non-offensive substats, not that exciting. It's also plus attack. If this were like crit, then maybe I would reveal the rest. This one's crit damage, not really what you want ideally on Keqing, because she already has a ton of crit damage, but still an offensive stat. But again, 2 non-offensive. This one, again, 2 non-offensive, 1 offensive. A lot of that. This one is interesting, because it is crit rate, which we like. Energy recharge is a fine non-offensive, like of all the non-offensive substats, that's the one we'd want. And then Elemental Mastery, again, we just talked about why I don't super like on Keqing, but this one you could plus up and it's probably fine. If everything rolled into crit rate, then this would also be pretty alright. But like I said, I'm pretty picky at this point because remember, all I'm doing is farming for the perfect artifacts. So there's not a lot of reason to experiment with something like this. And as you can see, I've got a ton of flowers, a couple of which we talked about being usable. I haven't even plussed this one up yet because I know I'm going to be farming a ton more. And that's kind of what I recommend if you're farming post 45. Until you've got something you really want on every single slot, don't start plussing things up because you might find something better along the way. So let's look at feathers, and we'll skip 4 stars on feathers. So remember that you cannot have the same main stat as one of your substats. So since flat attack is up here, we cannot have flat attack down here. This one's not very good. It's only one offensive substat. We could reveal the last one to see if it's also offensive, but this is as base is not exciting enough for me to want to invest any resources into doing that unless this was like my only feather for this set. Same thing with this. It's got crit damage. Crit damage is not as exciting as crit rate for Kaching because she already has so much crit damage. Same thing here. So let's look at this one. This one is pretty bad. The only thing it's got here is Elemental Mastery as offensive. Everything else is non-offensive, so this is just hard pass. And then, similarly, this one, another hard pass. It's even worse than the previous one because I at least would rather have energy recharge than HP or defense. So both these are not very good. This one is okay. So this one's got an attack percentage and a crit rate. So this, I think, would be worth plussing up if you didn't have something better. Like, this is not bad at all. But it's definitely not a perfect roll. And that's a thing to know. After 1,000 resin, you're not necessarily going to have a perfect roll for every slot. You might not even have a perfect roll for any slot after 1,000 resin. So that kind of gives you an idea of how farming goes for these things. This one is better, I think, because it's got crit rate and crit damage. It doesn't have attack, so the HP is kind of but it does have Elemental Mastery, so it's got 3 offensive substats. A thing to know here is I said Elemental Mastery wasn't exciting for Kaching, it's not, but on a feather you kind of have to deal with it, because remember, you can't have flat attack down here, so you can't have flat attack, attack percentage, crit rate, crit damage. That's not possible. So to have all offensive substats, you would have to have Elemental Mastery, so thing to keep in mind. This one's going to be worth plus 20ing. Again, if all the pluses go into HP, then this thing goes from being good to pretty placeholder. Hourglasses. This is where we start getting into random main stats. Remember, only flowers and feathers have a static main stat. Hourglasses can have attack, HP, defense, elemental mastery, or energy recharge as their main stat. For the vast majority of DPS, you're going to want attack as the main stat on an hourglass. So with that in mind, let's look at some. So HP, garbage. We're not even going to look at the substats because the main stat's wrong. HP, garbage. Attack. So that's a start, but its substats are defense and HP, and it's 4-star. So this is not that enticing. Defense, garbage. Defense, garbage. HP, garbage. Attack. So this one is promising because it is attack and it's crit rate and it's crit damage and it's elemental mastery, so 3 offensive substats, does have defense, but this is promising. However, it's only a 4-star. You might be thinking, you've got so many 5-stars, surely you can use one of those. Well, let's take a look. Defense, garbage. Energy recharge, not great. HP, garbage. HP, garbage. Energy recharge, not really what I want. Energy recharge, not really what I want. So let's look back here. Let's see, 5, 7, 12, 13 hourglasses we looked at. Only 2 of them rolled attack, and they were both 4-star. This is why I don't recommend you hardcore farm for perfect roll artifacts before 45. If you want to finish a set and just get the first usable piece, to finish the set before 45, do that. That's totally fine. Like, if you roll this thing between 40 and 45, totally keep it, use it, it's fine. Don't try and roll for a perfect 5-star piece or even a perfect 4-star piece before 45, because your drop rates are going to be so atrocious. And like I said, 13 drops, only 2 of them were even really worth looking at because everything else was wrong main stat. So that gives you some perspective. Okay, goblets. And Stig is joining us to give us his opinions on goblets. What do you think of goblets, Stig? Goblets are garbage. I hate them. Goblets more like garblets. Good one, Stig. So here's the thing with goblets. They're going to be mind-blowingly frustrating for you to farm. The issue is they can roll any elemental damage bonus, right? They can also roll attack. They can also roll physical damage bonus. Of course, they can roll HP and defense. The problem is this goblet is perfect. It's the pyro damage set with a pyro damage bonus. All aligns. But then you get ones like this. This is the Electro set with an Anemo damage bonus. You're going to see so many of these mismatches between the elemental damage bonus and the set's elemental bonus. And that's going to drive you freaking nuts. You might roll one like attack. Attack's not ideal for most characters. It's still fine though. It's still close enough. And if you roll an attack one for the character that's the right set, then that's probably going to be a keeper, though you'll replace it when you get the right elemental damage bonus. But yeah, let's look at some, because that's going to show you immediately what I'm talking about. This one, defense, garbage. HP, garbage. Pyro damage bonus on Electro set, garbage. HP, garbage. Attack, I mean, it's a start, but HP, defense, yeah, garbage. HP, garbage. Attack, defense, elemental mastery, not great. Let's look at the 5-star. Surely this would be better. Ha, ha. Hydro damage bonus, wrong element. HP, garbage. HP, garbage. Cryo damage bonus, wrong element. HP, garbage. Cryo damage bonus again, wrong element. However, the rest of it's pretty spicy. Could use a crit rate, but otherwise pretty spicy. But wrong element. Anemo damage bonus, just looked at. Wrong element. Stats on it aren't bad though. And then this one, defense, garbage. Goblets? Get used to it. You're gonna get the wrong goblets all the freaking time. In fact, I would recommend if you're trying to put a set together, you do this. Sets are 4 pieces. There's not really a bonus for 5 pieces. For now, maybe they'll add a 5-piece set at some point. So what you can do is get 4-piece from everything but the goblet. So get the correct mean stats on all your other pieces to get the 4-piece bonus, and then just use any goblet that has the right elemental damage bonus for your character. That's going to save you a lot of frustration, I think, compared to trying to get the right set with the right elemental damage bonus. Sometimes you get lucky. Very often you'll get stuff like this. And in fact, if you look at my Venti is in fact using this this pyro damage set with an Anemo damage bonus, because the rest of his set is correct. So he's got his 4-piece, and there isn't a 5-piece bonus yet. There are technically 1-piece crowns that give you a 1-piece set bonus, but honestly those aren't super compelling, so don't worry about it. Moving on. I need to start a little fan club for Stig. Bonus points if you know where Stig's name is from. So crowns. Crowns can roll crit rate, crit damage, attack, HP, defense, or elemental mastery. I think that's everything a crown can roll. For the vast majority of DPS, you're going to want crit rate or crit damage. Attack is okay, but it's not going to give you the best overall output compared to crit rate and crit damage for most characters. For characters like Keqing, as we've talked about, her innate stat is crit damage, so you want crit rate to balance it. By the same logic, Deluxe innate stat is crit rate, so you want crit damage to balance that. Ideally, you want like a 1-to-2 ratio, so like 1 crit rate per 2 crit damage. The actual map's a little bit more complex than that, but that's a good rule of thumb to get you in the right ballpark. So let's look at some. HP, garbage. Defense, garbage. Crit damage. We'd prefer crit rate, but it's still a crit stat. However, defense, substat, so garbage. Defense, garbage. Defense, garbage. Crit damage, again. Attack as one of its substats, so better, but still not great. Elemental mastery, not really the right choice for Keqing. Let's see, what else do we have? 5 stars. Defense, garbage. Defense, garbage. Attack, not bad, but defense, HP, substats, pretty yikes. attack. Defense, defense, attack as substats, so better, but still not ideal. Let's see, HP, garbage, attack. This one's alright. It's not great because it's only one offensive substat, 3 non-offensive substats, but it is at least crit rate as as one of its offensive substats. But attack means that's not really what we want. Crit damage. Again, we'd want crit rate instead of crit damage, but it is a crit stat, and it's 5-star, and does have, Elemental Mastery is not really what we want either. Energy Recharge is the better of the non-offensive substats. So this one's okay, but none of these are great. And again, well, what did we look at here? Let's see, 7. Yeah, 14 crowns. None were really good. None were even like, I wouldn't feel bad about using it. All these were kind of so that's just what to expect when you're talking about farming for really good artifacts. So one of the bonuses of this domain is that both of the artifacts that can drop here at 5-star are useful. Thunder Soother is the one that a lot of people would say is better for Kaching, but Thundering Fury is pretty good for Official. So no matter what, one of the 5-star pieces that drops is going to be somewhat useful to you depending on what your roster is, of course. Same thing with this domain. This is the Veridescent Inventor one, because the Veridescent Inventor set is the best for Animo support, like Venti. However, the main Beloved set also drops here, which is the best in slot for healer characters. So chances are you'll be able to find a use for either of the 5-star drops. This is not the case with every domain. Like the Pyro domain, for example. This is the one that drops Crimson Witch of Flames, which is the best in slot for most Pyro characters. Because the other set is Lava Walker, and this is basically Pyro Thunder Soother. The issue is, for Electro characters, 4-piece Thundering Fury is questionable. It's not great. So that's why some people will suggest 4-piece Thunder Soother instead. Lava Walker is essentially Pyro Thunder Soother, but the difference is Crimson Witch of Flames 4-piece is not questionable. It is extremely strong for pretty much all the Pyro characters. So you have a very compelling argument to run 4-piece Crimson Witch of Flames, whereas Lava Walker much less so. So if you get Lava Walker drops, those are going to be a miss. So this one is a little bit rougher to farm because you're only looking for one of the two sets. Look who's back. So let's look at Official's Thundering Fury pieces to see if she got anything really good. This Thunderbird's Mercy is pretty good. It's attack, crit rate. Would rather crit damage to have HP, obviously, but I mean, it's fine. This is not a bad piece. This Survivor Catastrophe is a little, I think, deceptive. So attack, of course, it's a feather. Crit damage, attack, defense, elemental mastery. So the issue with this thing is it looks like one of the bonuses went to defense, and then like 1 or 2 of them went into elemental mastery. So this is more a placeholder piece, I would say. The issue is defense, of course, we don't want. Elemental mastery is fine, but you do have to play around it. So remember, only the triggering character's elemental mastery matters for damage. So with Official, she'd actually benefit from elemental mastery as long as you're playing around that, but it is another thing to keep in mind when playing her. So this one's okay, but it's not as exciting as it would initially appear just because of where those bonuses went. Hourglass. This is only a 4-star Hourglass because we did not get a better 5-star Hourglass. Like this one's defense, garbage. This one's HP, garbage. This one's attack, but look at the bonuses, the subsets. Defense, energy recharge, so 3 non-offensive, and then an elemental mastery. So not great. Would probably rather use this 4-star and just wait until I get a better 5-star. Goblets, we're using a Gambler's Dice Cup because it's an electro damage bonus. That's sometimes what you gotta do to get the right elemental bonus. The Crown. This one is actually solid. Crit rate, love to see it. Attack, great. Attack, great. Crit damage, great. Has HP instead of, say, elemental mastery or even energy recharge, but overall, this one's good. I would say out of all the ones we've seen so far, this one is the most solid. So that gives you an idea of kind of the pieces you get incidentally when you're targeting one piece or another from the domains. One more thing to talk about. Certain characters and, well, certain elements, frankly, are even more picky about what artifacts work well for them. I'm referring to Geo, characters like Ning Wang, because remember, elemental mastery increases reaction damage for things like Swirl, Electrocharge, Overload, Vaporize, Melt, Superconduct, all of them. But Crystallize is different. Elemental Mastery does not increase the damage of Crystallize, and Crystallize is the only reaction a Geo character can cause. Instead, Elemental Mastery increases the damage absorption of the shield generated by Crystallize. So, on a Geo character, Elemental Mastery is no longer an offensive substat, it is a defensive substat, and in a DPS context, it's a dead skill, because it's doing nothing for your damage. It's really not increasing your damage at all. So for a Geo character, finding the perfect artifact is going to be even trickier. I'm mentioning this because I've been trying to find the perfect artifact set for Ning Wang, and it has been frustrating for that exact reason. So things to keep in mind, you're trying to gear up a Geo character. Brief aside, I've gotten Ning Wang to 80. I've gotten her skills all maxed out, except for Jade Screen. Jade Screen's one off from max. She's running like a 5-star Catalyst, she's Constellation 6, etc. The reason I've been doing all this is because some folks have been really hyping her to me. Like, they've been telling me things like, oh, Ning Wang's super underrated. People say she's bad, but she's actually really, really good. She's one of the best characters in the game. In fact, a YouTuber whose opinion I had respected up until this point had said something literally along the lines of, I think Ning Wang is the best character in the game, or one of the best characters in the game. And I'm like, really? That's surprising. However, I didn't want to just dismiss those opinions without checking out, so I fully leveled her out. I needed a Geo character anyways, because there's not a lot of Geo characters right now, so I figured I'd just do it. And I have to say, I feel like those people who say those things lack perspective. That's the nicest way I can say it, because I think Ning Wang's great for a 4-star character. Like, she's good. She's really solid for a 4-star character. But when you start comparing her to what is considered meta, like the really, really highly regarded characters, she does not compare to them. She just doesn't. Like, her output's just nowhere near as good or as consistent. I'm not saying she's bad, though. She is good. She's just not the secret meta character. And keep in mind, a lot of people who say those things have her at like C1, C2. I'm running her at C6. C6 is a huge power jump for her because it makes it so she can get 7 Star Jades. Normally, she can only get 3 before C6. So she uses Star Jades when she charge attacks and makes her do more damage. So when you hit C6, you can get 7, which is more than double. I don't need to tell you basic math. So, like, she'll do a lot more damage than C6. And even then, she's not that mind-blowing. So that's the thing to know. I'm not saying she's bad, but when people come to you with things like, oh, all these things about the meta people say are completely wrong. Yeah. Is it more likely that that person that told you that is wrong, or that everybody else is wrong? That's all I'm saying. And I don't want to just dismiss people saying things like that, so that's why I actually built her out to try her. So I've got quite a bit more resin to spend for the day, and I'll probably spend it all farming more artifacts. I know I made it sound like farming artifacts is kind of yikes even at 45, and frankly it really is, but this is the part of the game I really enjoy. I really enjoy the hunt for a perfectly statted piece of equipment. It's what really motivates me in games like Diablo and the like. Gives you an idea of like what I like in games. So yeah, that's what I'll be doing happily. I do stand by my initial statement and what I've said in previous videos, though. You don't want to farm for perfectly rolled artifacts until 45. Prior to 45, get something that's good enough and then just keep on leveling until you get to 45. Just because we were looking at about 1,000 resin worth of artifacts earlier, and maybe 3 of those I would consider pretty good, and none of them I would consider perfectly rolled. So gives you an idea of how long it's going to take to get a full set of perfectly rolled artifacts on somebody. So don't spend a ton of resin doing that early, or else you're gonna regret it when you actually do get to 45 and get access to the better drops. Anyways, if you've enjoyed this video, let me know down below. Like, comment, subscribe, YouTube stuff, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!